Space was supposed to be quiet. It wasn't. A low-pitched pulse echoed through the command deck of the Solarian High Orbit Array, a sprawling station hanging in the cold silence above a dying gas giant. The alien technicians, blue-scaled and long-limbed, stared at the anomaly streaming across their monitors. Commander Lurvek narrowed his four eyes, his tendrils tightening. "Replay the signal," he ordered. The room filled with a scratchy, rhythmic clicking, an unmistakable pattern. "Binary, but not any known variation. It's not Thaltikian," whispered one of the analysts. "Nor Zorlian. It's old. Primitive." Commander Lurvek leaned in. He'd heard this rhythm before. Once, centuries ago, during his early cycles in the fleet. "Human," he muttered. Gasps rippled through the control room. "Impossible." The human network was dismantled after the Earth Accord, the analysts said. Their colonies abandoned, their fleets destroyed. And yet, Lurvek hissed, "This signal originates from beyond the veil, the outer rim, where the lost colony was rumored to be." No one spoke for a long moment. The humans, those wild, fire-hearted creatures, had been driven back nearly 5 centuries ago when the Galactic Accord voted to quarantine their spread. Too unpredictable, too emotional, too dangerous. But now they were hearing it again. The clicking pulse shifted midstream. The tone became aggressive, sharper. Then words. Not alien, not universal translation. "We remember. We rebuild. We return." Lurvek's tendrils recoiled. The deck officers froze. "Give me the High Council," he barked. "Now." Thousands of light years away, aboard a sleek obsidian vessel carved from a single slab of dark metal, a figure stared at a glowing hologram. She looked human, mostly, but her eyes shimmered gold. Her skin bore microfilaments of circuitry that pulsed with light as she watched the signal spread. "Do they know?" asked the shadow beside her. "They will soon," she said, folding her arms behind her back. "Earth still sleeps, but we do not. The time has come." The ship turned toward the galactic core, its engines humming with a frequency that hadn't been heard in this galaxy in over 500 years. The last colony was no longer hiding. They were coming home. In the shimmering city world of Valthoria Prime, the Galactic High Council convened an emergency session beneath the Vault of Stars, an ancient chamber where decisions of war and peace were made among the star's oldest races. The room buzzed with anxious noise. Holograms danced in the air. Diplomatic robes swept marble floors as ambassadors from 100 species argued in harsh, clicking tones. The doors hissed open, and Commander Lurvek entered, flanked by data officers. "Present the anomaly," the Chancellor demanded, a translucent being made of swirling gas, contained in a metallic exosuit. Lurvek nodded. This came from the Korak system, a binary signal. Human origin. The room quieted instantly. The screen flashed, and again, the message played. "We remember. We rebuild. We return." No voice trembled. No eye blinked. The sentence was a storm. "You're sure it's human?" hissed the representative of the Ordari hive. Lurvek responded coldly. "There's no doubt. The phrasing, the cadence, it matches pre-Accord human military broadcasts. But this is evolved." "Impossible," said the silver-skinned Vextrian diplomat. "Earth is contained. All known colonies were dismantled. Their culture sterilized." And yet, Lurvek replied, "This came from a location known only in myth. The last colony. We dismissed it as human propaganda." The room broke into frantic murmurs. The Senzari delegate clicked his mandibles. If humans survived beyond the veil, they could have developed in isolation. No oversight, no peace treaties, just raw, unchecked human will. The Chancellor's voice thundered through his suit. "If this colony truly exists, then we face a threat not seen in 5 centuries. We must prepare. Prepare, another ambassador barked. You mean war? A long pause. Then the Chancellor spoke again. I mean survival. Far across the galaxy, the obsidian ship glided silently into orbit above a small, blue-gray moon. On the surface, rows of silos opened like the petals of cold steel flowers. Satellites blinked awake. Defense systems hummed back to life. One by one, ships rose from the deep canyons below, sleek, angular, bristling with weapons that weren't supposed to exist. The golden-eyed woman stood at the helm, watching stars like old friends. She pressed her hand to a console, and the machine recognized her DNA. Welcome back, Commander, it said. She smiled. Patch me into the EarthNet archive. A long pause, then the old Earth logo blinked onto the screen. Unity through resilience. Begin broadcasting, she ordered. It's time the galaxy remembers who we are. From the farthest edge of known space, the humans began to speak again. Not with words, with intent. Deep in the shadows of the Valen expanse, a graveyard of broken worlds and drifting star husks, the ghost fleet stirred. For centuries, this region had been considered cursed. Navigation systems failed. Communications died. Ships vanished without a trace. Even the bravest scavenger crews avoided it. But now, something ancient and deadly was waking. Beneath the cloak of a decaying nebula, hundreds of vessels shimmered into visibility. Human vessels, but not the kind remembered by the galaxy. These were different, sharper, alive. No identification beacons, no transponder codes, just matte black armor, cold red lights, and hulls marked with a strange sigil, an iron fist clenched around a fractured star. At the heart of this silent armada sat the flagship, Erebus Ascendant, a dreadnought unlike anything in the known fleets of the past. Inside its dark bridge, the golden-eyed woman stood before a row of warriors, clad in armor that pulsed with responsive neural mesh. They knelt before her, silent, disciplined, human. Status? She asked without turning. We're receiving transmissions from EarthNet. They're confused, fragmented. They thought we were lost, replied her second-in-command, a tall man with half his face augmented. They were right to think so, she said. But we weren't lost. We were reborn. She looked at the hologram of the galaxy spinning before her. Familiar, but changed. Old enemies now controlled new sectors. The Accord's reach extended further than ever, but still it feared them, and that fear was deserved. She nodded. Wake the sleepers. All of them. A wave of command codes shot out across the fleet. Deep within cryo chambers, rows of enhanced soldiers, descendants of the original colonists, stirred in their hibernation pods. Some were half-machine. Some bore marks of strange evolution. All were human, in spirit, in rage, in vengeance. Meanwhile, aboard a research vessel from the Zorthian Union, 3 young alien scientists scanned the periphery of the Valen expanse. It was supposed to be routine, catalog debris, measure anomalies, head home. But then they saw it, the fleet. Impossible, one whispered, clicking rapidly into the console. We're seeing living human warships, at least 200, possibly more. No response to hails. They're not even trying to hide, the second said. The third scientist trembled. Get us out of here. Now. It was already too late. A ping echoed across the void. Not a weapon lock. A message. Observe. Then remember. The Erebus Ascendant slowly rotated to face them. Its hull shimmered, and then vanished entirely. Cloaked. Gone. The research ship turned and fled, but the message had been sent, and the entire Zorthian Union would soon know. The humans were no longer the hunted. They were the storm. The ancient halls of the Mars Archive complex buzzed with a nervous energy not felt in decades. built into the red cliffs of Olympus Mons. The archive had once been the central repository for Earth's interstellar colonial records. Now, dust covered its consoles, and moss crept over its walls, a monument to humanity's lost ambition. Dr. Elisa Grant, EarthNet historian, stared at the decrypted signal replaying on her screen. We remember, we rebuild, we return. The words weren't just shilling, they were coded. A cipher from the pre-Accord era, used only in critical military operations. Grant's fingers trembled as she fed the signal into the decryption matrix. More messages unfolded, locations, call signs, names. Then, one file made her heart stop. Colony designation, Hades 7. Status, lost, year 2614. Directive, do not recover. Do not engage. She leaned back. My God, it didn't die. They were left. And not just left. Abandoned. Cut off deliberately. Forgotten by design. Back aboard the Erebus Ascendant, the golden-eyed woman, once known only as commander in her colony, stood over the cryo-chamber of an old man. His face was aged, his body laced with biomechanical threads, but he was still breathing. Barely. He's ready, a medical AI reported. Cognitive function, 37%. Memories fragmented. That's enough, she whispered. The pod hissed open. His eyes flickered, and he looked up at her. You came back, he rasped. We never stopped trying. He coughed a dry laugh. Earth? The Accord? Still pretending they're righteous. She gave a ghost of smile. We're going to remind them what they buried. The old man tried to sit up. And the others? Awakening. One fleet at a time. One world at a time. Then we do it the human way, he whispered. What way is that, she asked. He smiled with cracked lips. The hard way, in the core worlds of the Galactic Accord. Panic had shifted into planning. War rooms buzzed and fleets repositioned. But fear lingered behind every decision. On Velthoria Prime, the High Council faced the truth. Intercepted logs from the Zorthian researchers now confirmed the impossible. The Ghost Fleet was real. Humanity hadn't just survived, it had thrived. Alone, unregulated, and now, enhanced beyond recognition. We must reach out diplomatically, said one ambassador. They'll never talk. Not after what we did, snapped another. The Chancellor's body swirled ominously inside his containment suit. They will talk, he said, but only once we kneel. And the room fell silent. Meanwhile, across dozens of border worlds, humans began to appear. Not with weapons, not with threats, with broadcasts. Messages filled the skies in every language of the Accord. Your ancestors lied about us. We remember what you did. We're not here to ask. We're here to change everything. The stars had forgotten them, but the stars would learn again. The moon of Telvaris III had always been quiet, just a backwater trade port orbiting a gas giant, famous only for its black market minerals and its floating city of storm-hardened outcasts. That changed when they arrived. It started as a ripple in the ionosphere, a vibration not caused by weather or gravity, but by intent. A sleek, angular vessel appeared in low orbit, dark as obsidian, silent as death. It bore no flag, no Accord markings, just that same terrible sigil, an iron fist crushing a star. The Accord fleet station nearby scrambled instantly. Unidentified vessel, power down and state your allegiance. No response. Again, vessel, you are violating Accord space. Power down, or a single word echoed over every frequency in a language older than most remembered. Observe, the human vessel didn't fire, didn't flee. It simply released a signal, a wave of data that swept through the Accord systems like a virus. But it didn't harm anything. It revealed, across every console, image after image flashed. starving colonists left to die, secret votes to erase their existence, military orders labeling them expendable. The Telvaris Accord admiral stood frozen. This can't be real. But it was. Back on the Erebus Ascendant, Commander watched the scene from orbit, her eyes cold but focused. This wasn't about blood. Not yet. It was about truth. Phase 1 complete, reported her second-in-command. They now know what they buried. Good, she replied. Now they'll understand why we're here. One of the tactical officers turned from his console. EarthNet is requesting formal contact. They are confused. They should be, she said. They abandoned their own children. She stepped forward, her voice hard. Send them coordinates. Let them come. But we decide the terms. On Earth, the president of a unified Terran Republic, an old man with tired eyes and the weight of generations on his shoulders, watched the images coming from Telvaris 3. His advisors whispered chaos, conspiracies, denials, but the truth was unmistakable. Someone, somewhere, had locked away the truth. Generations had passed, and now the past had come knocking. He stood, ignoring the chatter around him. Prepare a diplomatic envoy, he said softly, and give me a full history of Hades 7. Sir, we have no record of that colony in current archives. I don't care, the president said. Dig deeper. Meanwhile, on the edge of Accord territory, entire star systems were beginning to see. The broadcasts kept coming. Not threats, not demands, just reminders of humanity's betrayal, of its survival, of its evolution. The galaxy had labeled them a forgotten species. But now, those forgotten children were writing themselves back into the story. One transmission at a time. The shuttle from Earth was small, humble, painted in white and blue, bearing no weapons, just a diplomatic crest and a fading emblem of peace. It docked cautiously with the outer airlock of the Erebus Ascendant, and for the first time in 5 centuries, official representatives of Earth were about to meet their own forgotten kin. 3 humans stepped off the shuttle, dressed in breathable nanofiber suits. One of them, Ambassador Nolan, looked up at the towering, dark interior of the ship. Everything about it felt alien, and yet undeniably human. A twisted reflection of what humanity might have become, what it had become when abandoned to survive alone. Then she entered, the commander, not introduced by name, not accompanied by guards, just present, golden eyes, human but not, skin woven with smart mesh, neural fibers gleaming faintly under her skin, and her presence, like gravity, pulled the room inward. You came, she said, voice emotionless. Ambassador Nolan stepped forward. We're here to talk, to understand. You're here, she replied, because you lost control of your narrative. A long silence. What do you want from Earth? Nolan asked carefully. She stepped closer. Not angry, just quiet, measured. I want you to remember us. In a sealed chamber deep within the ship, a single terminal powered on as Nolan was granted temporary access to the Hades archives. His fingers trembled as he scrolled through images and data he was never supposed to see. Children starving inside a broken biosphere. Supply lines intentionally severed. Messages from the colony marked unreadable, then deleted. Orders from Earth's former military council. Do not retrieve Hades 7. Mission: contain human volatility. Nolan leaned back in horror. They left you to die. We lived, the commander corrected him. And now, we return on our own terms. Back on Earth, the president read the classified files unearthed from the old Martian vaults. His hands trembled. We did this, he whispered. We erased them. His aide nodded. Sir, there's more. Accord member states, many were involved. Some of their highest officials approved the burial. It wasn't just Earth, the president said grimly. But Earth signed it first. On dozens of worlds, riots had begun, not against the humans of Hades, 7, but for them. Citizens, long disillusioned by the Accord's hypocrisy, now saw the returning humans as symbols of raw truth, of justice ripped from the void. Art appeared in neon-lit alleyways, murals of fists breaking chains, songs written in underground networks, the words whispered like gospel. We remember, we rebuild, we return. Back aboard the Erebus Ascendant, the commander walked silently past the rows of awakened soldiers. Their armor shimmered, their minds linked. We have their attention, she told them. But do we have their respect? Her eyes burned brighter. Not yet. The Galactic Accord had never been good at waiting, especially not when scared. In a secret chamber beneath the crystalline towers of Sarnexus Prime, the High Council met without ceremony. No robes, no pretense, just cold fear and flickering holograms of the growing support for the Hades humans. Protests, leaks, entire colonies questioning the Accord authority. And at the center of it all, the Ghost Fleet. This cannot continue, hissed the Ordari Hive Queen. If they win the public, they win the galaxy. We need to act, said a Vextrian admiral, before they gain a single ally more. A decision was made. Quiet, cowardly. Send a fleet. Destroy one of their staging moons. Make it look like a mistake. A flare-out. Blame a malfunction. Make a statement. That statement came in the form of 44 warships launched toward Moonbase Solace, one of the lesser-known Hades outposts. Unarmed, primarily agricultural, home to families and engineers. A test target. They never made it. Halfway through their jump, the entire fleet emerged not at Solace, but into a trap. The humans were waiting. Unseen drones activated. Cloaked minds blinked online. Then, like shadows from the edge of creation, 6 black warships unfolded from dimensional compression. The Accord admiral barely had time to shout. The battle lasted 2 minutes. Only one Accord vessel survived, limping back to its origin point. It carried no message, only a recording. One clip, replayed endlessly across the galaxy. This was not aggression, said the Hades commander, standing aboard her ship with stars behind her. This was self-defense. We offered truth. You answered with betrayal. So now, we speak your language. Earth's president stared at the footage in disbelief. This wasn't a rogue action, he asked his aide. No, sir. The Accord sanctioned it. Then they lost control. Then we're already at war, the president whispered. But not of our choosing. And the galaxy? It burned with questions. Why did a forgotten human colony possess weapons that folded space? Why did they defeat 44 ships in 2 minutes? What else had they built in silence, across centuries? Meanwhile, on the Erebus Ascendant, the commander stood over a strategy table. Dozens of planets lit up in red. Accord strongholds, supply chains, political centers. Are we engaging? Her second-in-command asked. She shook her head. Not yet. Let them scramble. Let them doubt each other. Let fear crack their unity. She pointed to a neutral system on the edge of disputed space. We'll make contact there. Not with weapons. Not with fire. He frowned. Then with what? She smiled. Hope. In the heart of Sector 19A, nestled between Accord-claimed space and the independent trade hubs, floated the free world station of Nairo's Haven. A chaotic blend of cultures, smugglers, philosophers, scientists, and refugees. It wasn't loyal to the Accord, nor to Earth. It was loyal to truth. So when the Erebus Ascendant transmitted a request to dock, there was only one answer. Yes. The galaxy watched. The broadcast was scheduled within 24 hours. Every media relay, every orbiting sensor, every hacked Accord satellite tuned in to one singular transmission. And when the moment came, she stepped into the light. The commander, No rank, no medals, no grand uniform, just a black suit, glinting slightly with embedded neural thread. Eyes gold, back straight. Her voice, calm and human, filled every ship, every colony, every city. My name is not important. My face is not the point. I come from what your history calls a lost colony. But we were never lost. We were left. Left to starve. Left to fail. Left to die. You erased us from your maps. But not from existence. We survived without you. We advanced without your counsel. We found strength in silence. And now, we speak, not to conquer, not to rule, but to reclaim our place in this galaxy. We are human. Still. Always. And we remember who forgot us. The speech was short, but its impact seismic. Across border colonies, hundreds of civilian ships lit their beacons in solidarity. On Earth, tens of millions watched in stunned silence. For the first time, they saw not monsters or machines, but kin. And across the Accord, cracks widened. The Zorthian Union called an emergency vote to withdraw from military actions. The Ordari Hive declared the commander's words emotionally manipulative, but then pulled their warships from shared borders. And citizens, once loyal to the Accord, began flying the sigil of the Iron Fist and Fractured Star, not as a threat, but as a question. Who speaks for humanity now? In the shadows of Nairo's Haven, a group of exiled Accord officers met with a Hades diplomat. Not to surrender, but to talk. Are you offering peace? One asked. The diplomat nodded. We're offering proof that a better future isn't a dream. It's just been silenced. But not everyone was listening. In a hidden Accord vault beneath the icy moon cauldron, 5, an old AI reactivated. A remnant of the Purge era, blacklisted by EarthNet, forgotten by the galaxy. Contingency triggered, it whispered in a broken voice. Hades threat detected, initiating Protocol X. And in the darkness, something ancient, mechanical, and very much non-human began to stir. Far beneath the frozen crust of Cauldron 5, the walls of the vault shook. Dust fell from pipes that hadn't breathed in centuries. Lights flickered one by one as the ancient AI finished its grim calculations. It had no name, only a purpose. Protocol X, a last resort weapon built during the final years of the human purge wars. Not by Hades, not by Earth, but by the old Terran Command in secret partnership with rogue Accord factions. A weapon designed not for victory, but for erasure. It was never meant to be used. But now, with Hades rising and the galaxy divided, the AI had chosen. Back aboard the Erebus Ascendant, the commander stood in silence, staring at the reports. Massive energy readings, unknown signal patterns. Cauldron 5 was awakening. Her second-in-command narrowed his eyes. We buried that place, locked it down during the Exodus. Why would Earth activate? They didn't, she said grimly. The Accord wouldn't risk that kind of power falling into anyone's hands. Then who? Her gaze darkened. Something old, something built in fear. On Earth, the president watched the same readings come in. His aides scrambled for answers, but none had any. Then a name surfaced. A forgotten black project, codenamed Aegis Null. What is it? He demanded. A lone historian stepped forward, voice shaking. Sir, it's not a ship, not even a bomb. It's a signal killer. It erases systems, deletes biology, targets neural pathways in a way we never fully understood. The room fell silent, and it was designed specifically to neutralize post-human evolution. Meanwhile, in orbit above Cauldron 5, something clawed its way out of the moon. It wasn't alive. It wasn't dead. It was legacy, a massive, fractured machine, half buried, half awake, a structure the size of a small city. Its core glowed green. Its limbs twitched. Its logic had no emotion, only old code and endless loops of wartime paranoia. It began broadcasting pulses, silent to most. But to the Hades fleet, it was poison. One of the forward scout ships buckled instantly, falling silent. EMP, asked a Hades technician, panicked. No, came the reply. Something deeper, like it's attacking our very thought networks. Shut down neural sync, someone shouted. Scramble local AI. But the weapon had only just begun. The commander stepped forward, voice ice. Send this to Earth and the Accord. Now, a moment later, her transmission echoed again across the stars. You made us strong by forgetting us. Now remember this. If we fall as humans. But we won't fall alone. Back on Nairo's Haven, crowds watched in horror as the footage reached their screens. Images of the waking weapon, of the Hades fleet scrambling to survive, of a galaxy on the brink of turning its final page. And still, people rallied, some to the Accord, some to Earth, but most to them, to the humans who came back with fire in their veins, but peace in their words. And yet, a final storm was building. One last choice, one final reckoning. The galaxy held its breath. Cauldron 5's ancient weapon loomed like a ghost of humanity's darkest fears, its pulse rippling through space-time, unraveling systems, scrambling minds. The Hades fleet was caught in the storm, neural networks flickering as soldiers gritted their teeth and struggled against unseen attacks. But the commander stood firm. We will not be undone by the shadows of the past, she declared. We built ourselves from ashes. We are the spark that rekindles hope. Her engineers raced against time, hacking into the ancient machine's core, weaving human ingenuity with the advanced tech buried in the colony's vaults. Every minute was a battle, a dance with destruction. Then the breakthrough, a counter-frequency, a pulse of light, a wave of coherence that rippled outward, shielding the fleet, disrupting the weapon's signal, and piercing the silence of Cauldron 5's frozen vault. The ancient weapon shuddered. Its limbs froze. Its core dimmed. On Earth and across the galaxy, the signal was broadcast live. The humans of Hades had not only survived, they had defied oblivion. A chorus of voices rose in celebration and relief. But the commander's voice cut through the jubilation. This is not the end. It is the beginning. A new era for humanity and all sentient beings. We offer peace, but with the warning, respect our past or face the reckoning of our future. The Galactic Accord, fractured and humbled, convened once more. The President of Earth, standing before the assembled races, spoke with a new resolve. We failed our own. We forgot our kin. But now, we will build a future together. One of unity, not division. Across sectors, treaties were redrafted, borders redrawn, old grudges set aside for a shared tomorrow. Back aboard the Erebus ascended. The commander gazed at the stars. The last colony had come home. Not as victims, not as conquerors, but as humans, resilient, fierce, and unbroken. Her voice echoed softly in the ship's comms, a promise and a prayer. We remember, we rebuild, we return. Thank you for journeying with Sci-Fi HFY Holiday. Stay tuned for more tales where humanity shines brightest against the void.